The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Rugby again, everybody, and we're back to the little ones today. Yesterday, Monks Kirby, which, okay, it wasn't massive. It was definitely a big episode, wasn't it? Well, this one will take us literally just a few minutes to walk through from one end to the other. I reckon I can get through this one in about 10 minutes, if not a little bit less. We're at the southern end of the village here, and if you walk to the north, you'll pass a church and an old schoolhouse, and that's really it. This is COPSTON Magna. COPSTON Magna, Copsy's Farm, Large. Today on TVI we come to another tiny village in the Rugby countryside, and yet again it's another one that you would likely not know of unless you were actively seeking it out. This is COPSTON Magna, located around 9 miles northwest of Rugby and 6 miles southeast of Nuneaton. COPSTON Magna was one of the villages that historically formed part of the ancient Monks Kirby parish when that totalled some 10,000 acres. It was the second most northerly settlement in that parish, with only High Cross further north. High Cross is now partly within COPSTON's boundaries. Most of the locals around here simply refer to COPSTON Magna as COPSTON, but archaically Magna was needed to distinguish this village from COPSTON Parva. That's no longer necessary though, given that COPSTON Parva is now an abandoned medieval settlement in neighbouring Wolvie. Its links to Monks Kirby are very evident. COPSTON first enters historical records in 1077, the year that Monks Kirby Priory was founded. COPSTON was a vill at that time and was part of the Priory's endowment. The site of the current church housed the Priory's oratory in the medieval period. And by extension, with the Monks Kirby connection, the Earls of Denbigh later owned the village after the Priory's dissolution. Two members of the Fielding family are responsible for building the church here, and they had a really good reason to. Let's discover it on another little stroll. Here's COPSTON Magna as it looked in 1900, and this is going to be another game of spot the difference. COPSTON Magna has changed very little since these times. A tiny village totally surrounded by farmland, it consists of one main clump of settlement. The rest of the parish is given over to agriculture, and even then, there aren't a massive amount of farms here. COPSTON Magna sits within a flat plain. Stand on any decent hill around here and you can see for miles. It's definitely a village that's in the middle of nowhere. Let's zoom in and take a look at what it had in these days. There are literally just two things marked here that are of any real note. Firstly, the church, which just jumps out at you straight away. At the time of this map, it had only been built for 51 years, so it was relatively young. The other thing that you notice here is a school, but that's long since been closed. Today, the school is a house, another to put with the modest collection of dwellings to COPSTON's name. So, has this changed much in the last 120 odd years? Let's see. And there's your answer, a resounding no. COPSTON is still just one main street, defined solely by the church. So the route here is going to be really simple. All we're going to do is walk from the southern tip of its main street to the northern end, a journey that'll take about 5 minutes. We'll quickly look at the old school, but the main focus here is that church. When we've completed this extensive and arduous travelling, we'll go east along the road to the A5. By doing that, we'll catch High Cross Quarry, the other landmark COPSTON Magna has to its name. Let's go. COPSTON Magna might be a tiny dot on the map, but it has a history that's worth a mention. This village, which had only 38 inhabitants at the 2001 census, is nestled in the quiet English countryside, not far from Rugby. It used to be part of the massive parish of Monks Kirby before that was downsized. COPSTON MAGNA is often referred to simply as COPSTON. There is no COPSTON Parva these days, but there used to be. The remains of that now deserted medieval village lie in the neighbouring parish of Wolvey, and so at one time Magna and Parva suffixes were needed to tell them apart. The village is located near the ancient site of High Cross, the significant historical point where the Roman roads of Watling Street and the Foss Way meet each other. Part of the High Cross hamlet sits within Copston's boundaries. The rest is split between Wibtoft, Sharmford and Claybrook Parva. Historically a chapelry of Warwickshire, Copston was first mentioned in early records like the Domesday Book. It was named after a Saxon owner called Copsey or Copst. It has a significant agricultural past, visible today thanks to medieval ridge and furrow in the fields around it. Despite its small size, the village offers a glimpse of the past and tranquility that's rarely found in the whirlwind of modern life. You feel like you're miles from anywhere here, but inside 5 minutes you can be on the busy A5. That's how deeply isolated a community this really is. That's practically all there is to see in the village itself. There's a church though, as we know. So we're going to head up into the churchyard. Here's the path. So the church is hiding behind that tree. Let's go see it. There can be absolutely no doubt that the most notable building in COPSTON MAGNA today is the Anglican Church of St John. Built in 1849, it's often incorrectly suggested this replaced a medieval chapel, but that's not the case. There was another building here back then, but it wasn't a chapel. Instead, it was something called an oratory, and it belonged to the priory at Monk's Kirby. It was first referred to in records dating from 1373, and apparently it was still functioning by 1730. By 1769, though, it was described as a destroyed church, even though that's inaccurate. An oratory is a place set aside by permission of an ordinary for divine worship on the spot. This was usually for the convenience of specific communities or groups. The word oratory comes from the Latin verb orare, to pray. So in effect, yes, they were like chapels, but officially they weren't. The oldest oratory in the world that's still standing is the Archiepiscopal Chapel in Ravenna, Italy, dating from 500 AD. The term is often used for very small structures surviving from the first millennium, especially in areas where the monasticism of Celtic Christianity was dominant. Given oratories were not churches, it's completely fair to say this is the first official religious building ever to stand here. The remains of the oratory have now completely gone. When this church was built on its site in 1849, none of the fabric from it was reused. So why was this church built here? Well, to answer that, we have to consider who built it. St John's was constructed by the sisters of Rudolph Fielding, the 8th Earl of Denbigh. As you'll recall from yesterday's video, he was a Catholic convert and helped establish Catholicism in this area. His sisters completely opposed his Catholic conversion and built this church almost in protest. The story goes that after his conversion they couldn't bear to worship in the same building as him, and so they built their own instead. This simple Victorian building is the result. A 2-cell structure with a bellcote, the interior of this one is plain. The stained glass in the east window is the work of Lavers and Barrett and represents Christ's nativity, crucifixion and entombment. The chancel roof appears to be borne on 2 large angel corbels. Well, this might be one of the smallest villages ever, but it still has a parish notice board, and so a card is going on this thing. I wonder how many people will see this one, because not many people live here in COPSTON MAGNA, and I imagine even fewer visit the place for whatever reason. There we go. That is COPSTON MAGNA in the books. So with the church visited, there's not really much more to COPSTON MAGNA as a village. It's another Wibtoft or Willie this, basically because it's just a group of houses that line one road, with the church providing the only real focal point. To the east, though, there is something else of interest. Okay, so here we are then at the quarry. The funny thing is, when you drive up here towards the quarry from COPSTON MAGNA, there are signs that say no access to quarry. I imagine that's for HGVs, because in a car I can't see any problem with driving into the quarry just there off this road. But that's just my take on it. Whether or not that's right, I don't know. So let's talk a bit about this quarry and why it's so important to the area. This is High Cross Quarry, which since the early 1990s has been churning out sand and gravel at an incredible rate of knots, and it's not showing any signs of stopping. The latest estimates reckon there's still approximately 1.8 million tonnes of mineral reserves remaining here. High Cross Quarry is currently operated by a company called KSD. They acquired it from Cemex, who in turn had purchased it from Bruntingthorpe Aggregates. KSD is the largest supplier of aggregate products in Warwickshire, principally from its Dunton site near Coleshill. High Cross Quarry is one of the largest remaining permitted reserves of sand and gravel in Warwickshire, and following a number of years of low activity and mothballing, KSD reopened the site to excavate the remaining reserve. Quarrying initially began here in 1991 and had an original end date of June 2016. However, only 1/3 of the reserves here had been exploited by then. A few years ago, an application was put forward to extend the end date to 2044, allowing the workings to reach the remaining minerals. The short-term plans in place for High Cross Quarry are based on an output of 60,000 tonnes of sand and gravel every year until 2044. Assuming that's met, the long-term plan is to then landscape the remains of the workings by 2046. And folks, that's pretty much your lot for COPSTON MAGNA. When you get beyond the quarry, the road runs to High Cross and the A5, thus marking the boundary with Leicestershire. Right, we have one left in Rugby this week, and it's arguably the weirdest parish in Warwickshire. I'll see you there. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.